All right, so here we are for our first episode of AFT, the Star Trek Discovery After Show, with the first episode of Season 3 making its debut today on CBS All Access. So, let's meet our distinguished panel of guests. Hello, everyone. How are you? You're all so distinguished.
Howdy.
Anthony, how are you tonight?
Hello.
I am doing well, thank you, Alan. How are you?
Amazing. Vandy Beth, good to see you again.
Good to see you on this Thursday, not my birthday.
Every day is your birthday.
Every day is my birthday.
Every day is your birthday.
And this is Rimsky with me.
Hi, Rimsky.
Rimsky.
There is a reason. There is a reason why everyone has cats tonight.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be seen anywhere.
There you go. And Mr. Gray, who's your guest?
Yeah, I'm here with Bailey, who, with the addition of Dr. Tavana on Lower Decks, and now Grudge to the Star Trek universe, Bailey is suddenly very interested in watching television. But, yeah.
Spot on Next Generation just wasn't enough.
It was too long ago. You know? He's a young cat. He's now, the new.
And joining our show for the first time is Daniel Pierce.
Hello.
Daniel, how are you?
Better than I deserve.
No, Daniel.
No.
You're better than we deserve.
Oh, that's true. No.
All right. We have our first comment already. For those watching, if you have comments or questions about tonight's episode of Star Trek Discovery, drop them in the comment section and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. Wendy Darling says, well, damn. I mean, I think that's a pretty appropriate reaction.
Was that a reaction to Star Trek, or was that a reaction to the general attractiveness of this panel?
Well,
two things.
I mean,
only Wendy knows for sure, but you know, I am here, so.
Okay, so let's jump into it. Let's try to keep the beginning of it a little spoiler-free. But in doing so, what are your initial impressions of this episode? How's your reaction to it?
Well, at least they won't be a slave to canon anymore.
Actually, I was going to say, you know, there was a common observation, if not complaint, of the first two seasons of Discovery was that they seem to be abandoning canon. But with the end of season 2, and now with the beginning of season 3, making it look like it's going to be all about discovering what caused the burn, I would say that the series now is almost obsessed with fulfilling established canon and with hewing to established canon.
Mm-hmm. I kind of agree with that. Anthony, what did you think about tonight's episode?
I loved it. It really hooked me straight in to season 3, and I'll be honest, I watched this in about 15-minute chunks between meetings today because that was the only time I was going to be able to do it. But it was fantastic. It was exciting. It really pulled me in. It made me so curious about, you know, this is the furthest in the future we have really been in Star Trek, beyond a couple of glimpses in things like Voyager with that museum. But you know, I want to know more. What's happened to the Federation? What's left? What's out there? It really pulled me in. I loved it.
Luckily for you, they shot 14 additional episodes to tell you all those things.
What, you mean we get more?
We get more. It's not just this one episode. It's amazing how television works.
Awesome sauce.
I continue to be amazed by the glory of television.
Oh, the modernity that we live in. Daniel, since you are this is your first time on the show, tell us what you thought of tonight's episode.
Well, I enjoyed it, but it was really lacking the appearance of a certain character. And honestly, that's the only reason I watched this show. So for season 1, I watched the first 2 episodes and then stopped watching until about the halfway point.
Okay, I think I know who you might be referring to.
So I'm guessing that you're not talking about Michael Burnham.
No,
There was no lack of Michael Burnham in this episode.
that's true, which I did enjoy. I enjoyed learning the stuff at the same time as she did. I thought that was I liked that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Vandy Beth.
No, I was just going to say, this episode made me regret that I never bothered to watch the last 2 seasons of Star Trek Enterprise, and I never thought I would say a sentence like that ever in my life. But because I hadn't seen those 2 seasons, and so I don't know about. I'd never heard of the burn before, for example.
None of us have until this episode. This is a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Really? The
Yeah.
burn wasn't the burn mentioned in the Enterprise?
Mm-mm.
Nope.
No.
Oh, okay.
There
well,
are similar things in Enterprise that could possibly feed into whatever the burn is.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Well, then forget.
Oh,
Never
save
mind.
that for the spoiler section, I guess.
Never mind what I was about to say, and continue on to Elizabeth.
Well, I
Now,
was just going to say that I agree with Vandy Beth that there will be a lot of reference to canon in kind of a Discovery, no pun intended, way, because there's so much unfamiliarity with the Federation now. It's like it's almost a legendary, like ghost-like, perhaps Camelot type, organization. With
Right.
more legend than it is reality, I guess, at this point. But what I was referencing when I said that they won't be such a slave to canon is that it just kind of they blew up everything, again, no pun intended, so that there is a much broader opportunity for creating new
Yes.
stuff.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, it's the biggest reboot, I guess, since the very first of the new Star Trek movies. I mean, I was really excited about the opportunity that presented itself about 14 or however many episodes there are for this season to discover exactly what was the burn, what caused it. Is there any way that what did they call the killer AI in season 2?
Control.
Is there any way that Control had a part in that? I mean, are we going to find a tie-in there? I mean, because even Burnham was like, "How could that happen? I mean, how could that have happened?" So I was very excited about the episode. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it unfolds over the coming episode.
It doesn't even have to tie into season 2. It could be something like a very late down the road cause and effect kind of thing from the android uprising that we saw in Picard.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right.
Which, one of the things that I've been talking about recently in the last couple of days is how much I want to see, with all these shows that are being developed at the same time, to see Star Trek become like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where each movie has a piece that plays into the next movie, and 2 movies down the road references back to, an earlier movie. I want to see all these shows become interconnected in some way. So that's a possibility. Yes.
Speaking of Picard and interconnectedness, you might remember in the first season of Picard, when we saw the scene on Mars where the android uprising began, the android told a joke, "What's brown and sticky?" The old joke, "What's brown and sticky?" And then in today's episode of Discovery, we learned that Book's password for his ship is sticky.
Interesting.
There's probably no connection there, but then maybe there is.
Yeah,
I don't know. In the way that the
remarkable
Star
where-
Trek writers work, there's no such thing as coincidence. I mean, there are too many. Now we're all going to watch to see if there is a tie-in, down the road.
Yep.
It struck me as remarkable that they're still spelling the same in 1200 years.
Oh, that's true.
I had that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You know why that will be the case, RL. It's because of
Why?
determined proofreaders like me.
Probably,
They're going to carry the torch across 12 centuries.
And all I've got to say is the English clearly made a language that was designed to last.
Mm.
They never really went into the proofreading technology of the 23rd century on Star Trek, but man, it must be.
On point.
Yeah.
It's amazing that there are still stones left to be overturned. Wendy would like to send kudos to the two of us who wore disco tees. Excuse me, I have one too.
Captain
There are
Queen.
3 disco tees on this show.
And I'm literally about to order one for next time. I feel left out.
And she says, "This is Star Trek. There are no coincidences." Okay. Let's jump into wait, there's one more. Wendy's on a roll, I tell you.
Yeah.
On the spelling in English designed to last. Okay. Let's jump into the episode. I want to talk about I just kind of as a starting point, let's Burnham has appeared in the future. She's flying through space. She smacks into somebody's spaceship and the two of them crash onto a planet.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of would like to have seen her stranded a little longer. That moment where she scans for life forms and it comes back with multiple readings and she does the congratulatory, yes! I would like for that to have been a bigger moment. I would like to see her sort of exist with her sort of doubt and fear and anxiety a little bit longer before we had another character come in. What do you think?
Sure, I can see that.
Well, I was kind of disappointed in that scene because she was scanning for life forms and all of a sudden she was all, doing the woohoo and the excited, but she didn't really say what the life form was, or maybe I didn't catch the computer said what life form it was. How did she know that there weren't man-eating tarantulas?
Exactly.
Was the life form that she was giddily running towards? I mean,
Yeah.
Or imagine that the life forms were halfway across the planet and she had to.
oh, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Better start now.
When she first said multiple life forms detected, I was like, that can mean anything.
Yeah.
That could mean 50 Cardassians who are about to shoot you dead, or it could be a toad.
Those two bugs we saw as we were introduced to the planet.
Or it could mean she's just a few feet away from an anthill.
Exactly.
Multiple life forms detected. I got to wondering, maybe all the planetary biologists watching can weigh in. Wouldn't the presence of a breathable atmosphere necessitate the presence of life?
No.
I mean, ours comes from, oceanic algae and so forth. So
On Earth, it does.
Yeah. But she could have landed on a place that had life at one point and is now abandoned.
Oh, that's interesting. Could be.
Yeah. It could have been a natural disaster that wiped everything out.
Hey, do we know where they filmed that planet? It looks like Hawaii.
Iceland. I read Iceland.
Okay.
Oh,
But
I was wondering that too.
Choice.
They spent some money if they went to Iceland for that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, apparently, reportedly, this thing cost an average of $8 million per episode,
Yeah.
What?
Wow.
which is insane. Next Gen and those shows were about $1 million per episode, which was big for their time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And 8 million now is that's a lot of money when you're talking about 15 episodes.
Well, and if you look at the special effects for this episode, they were pretty cool. The opening part where the furniture was dissolving and rebuilding, and then the creature, whatever the worm was that came out of the spaceship, which was pretty good CGI, I thought. So I can see where they spent good money.
Yes, My friend George, who I haven't seen in like 100,000 years, has a good point. Control was going to wipe out all organic life, so having any life at all detected was evidence of success of the mission. That's a very good point.
You know, I didn't even pick up on that. That's terrific.
I didn't either. It didn't even occur to me. But yeah, that is exactly the power of that scene, I guess. So thank you, George, for pointing that out.
So
Yeah,
maybe
good
that's
call,
what
George.
she was excited about. Wasn't so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the exhilaration before the millisecond later that she thought, oh shit, is it a spider that's going to eat me now when I find it?
I feel like
Yeah,
he never had that fear. Like,
What's that?
I feel Michael never had that fear of walking into the unknown. It's like, I'm just going to go and encounter whatever the hell is out there and
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
Well,
Just Starfleet.
they showed that little bit as part of the trailer for this season. And so I guess I came into the episode with my preconceived notion that that scene meant she was scanning for discovery and found life forms.
Mhm.
And that's what she was excited about. So I kind of missed, I guess I kind of, brought in my own prejudice with it.
Missed the point, Alan.
I did. I do that a lot, though. I'm sure none of you have ever noticed that.
So what is refresh my memory? What is the status of Control at this point? Was it in the suit? Was it in Burnham's suit, or was it on board Discovery?
It was on board Discovery, and according to Giorgio, it was basically at that point completely contained in Leland, and he was destroyed in the spore drive hub.
Right.
So she says Control has been neutralized. Now, I don't know about that, because at that point, Control had control of all the other ships around it. So I don't know.
So then why did Burnham make her angel suit self-destruct in the beginning of this episode?
Daniel?
Was I listening during that?
Yeah. Because you mentioned the reason to me.
Oh, so she had to send the suit back in time to create the 7th and final red burst in the old
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Spock was like,
So that's why
how
I
will I
didn't
know that you've made it into the future? And she said, I'll send the 7th signal, and that'll be the sign that we made it.
That's why she was freaking out trying to get it to fly
before the
away.
wormhole collapsed.
Yeah.
Right.
So she sent it because she knew that it was supposed to appear, but it appears because she sent it. Doctor Who would be very upset.
Bad Wolf.
Oh,
Bad Wolf.
Terrible Wolf. All right, so let's talk about our new main character that we were introduced to tonight. Book.
Grudge.
Or Grudge, sure. Clearly, Grudge
about
is
another main character.
Yeah, clearly Grudge is the most important character in this episode. But let's talk about, we'll come to him soon enough, him or her. Let's talk about Book real quick. Daniel, what did you make of our new main character? And what part do you think he's going to play in the upcoming season?
Obviously, he's a good guy. Can we talk spoilers now?
Sure.
Oh, Elizabeth has given us permission, so go right ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, why are you watching this if you haven't seen the episode?
There you go.
I mean, obviously, it almost seemed like it was a stereotypical trope they went down. Like, oh, who's this guy? You can't trust him. He's this hard shell. Can't crack him. I don't want to know Michael Burnham's name. Betrays her. Then suddenly they're friends. And it seems based on what we're seeing that he's kind of he's sticking around for a while, or she's sticking around with him because he won't be able to get rid of her.
Yeah.
Well,
To me, he was a Han Solo. A redone Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of bothered me in a way because he even had a Wookiee going back to Grudge.
Grudge the Wookiee.
Back to Grudge, doesn't it?
If you think about it, though, it's very much like Doctor Who, where he's the companion of the current era, and he's what grounds you to this time. And then Michael Burnham is the Doctor who is the time-traveling person, and then Book is the companion.
This is exactly what I said to Alan before we began.
Exactly.
Very much felt like an episode of Doctor Who. You had the time-traveling character who quickly established themselves with a local and had adventures. That there was a general lack of a crew, which I think helped with that. But speaking of book, I do want to say I appreciate that finally in Discovery we have a British accent.
Yes.
It's the one thing show that almost every other Trek show has had.
No, you're right.
And he's the actor David Ajala. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but he was actually from Hackney in East London. So the accent that he's using as Book is probably his native accent.
Oh, 100% it is.
And he is in another recent show, right?
Supergirl.
He was in Supergirl a couple of episodes ago, a couple of seasons ago. He played a character named Manchester Black, who is from the comics. He's not black in the comics, but who cares? But he was really, really good in Super. He played a villain, but he was a villain who was ultimately somewhat sympathetic because we understood his motivations. And so, yeah, when I learned he was going to be in this season of the Discovery, I was really excited because he is really, really good. And then
he was in one of the Fast and Furious movies too. I don't remember which one because they were all kind of like the same.
Okay, so other thoughts about the character of Book?
I like him. I like that he's not Starfleet. Of course, nobody's Starfleet.
Yeah.
But I do like the Han Solo aspects to the character, and I like that having a pet sort of grounds him, makes him more relatable because we've all got pets.
And half of you brought them to the panel.
And half of us brought them to the panel.
His affinity for other life forms is very interesting, and he seems to indicate that it's an ability he was born with, but the glowy things.
Yeah,
also a technological aspect. Maybe his people are cyborgs of some kind, like natural born cyborgs. Boy, that's a good title for something.
Yes, it is.
Put that down.
So they could have a combination of a genetic and sort of a techno replicator thing going on, and they're born kind of like the Xenomorph in the Alien movie.
Yeah. George says he's a space druid.
Acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. That fits.
Mm-hmm.
That totally fits. Because he's got the affinity with plants and other life forms. Very interesting. So they're working a little D&D into this season of Discovery.
Yeah.
Okay, so the burn. We have Book, who is kind of explaining a lot of things to Michael Burnham, getting her sort of oriented into this new world into which she has literally fallen. We have the burn, which turns out, we get a little bit of explanation tonight, is most all of the dilithium everywhere just suddenly went poof. That's very interesting. Why not all the dilithium? What would have caused?
Well, we can't answer that without knowing what caused the burn in the first place.
Oh, I know, but this is speculation time.
So
maybe some of the dilithium was maybe the burn was an effect that could be blocked or shielded against. So maybe some of the dilithium was like, deep in the core of a plant, in the crust of a planet or something, and so whatever caused the burn didn't reach it.
So based on the timelines, the burn happened, I want to say, about 90 years before this episode-ish. Daniels was from Enterprise was from about 10 years before the burn. So I'm almost wondering whether they're going to go in a direction where maybe the burn has something to do with the Temporal Cold War. And the Temporal Wars did get a mention in the episode as well. So
yeah. So is that the same thing as the Temporal Cold War? Is this a new thing that they just called something similar?
I would assume the Temporal Cold War heated up into being just a war.
That's what I'm wondering too. Here's a good comment from Wendy. Did anyone else get Wakanda vibes from Book and the tech that he has? His connectedness, wanting to protect and preserve. I'll tell you what, I got a very strong Wakanda vibe from some of the score, particularly the scenes where he and Michael are walking and trying to escape the people who are chasing them, and there was a lot of like sort of tribal percussion in the score that I thought very much had a Black Panther feel to it. So good point, Wendy.
Mhm.
So they're getting chased on the beach, and they're transporting to various locations, being chased by. There's apparently a lot of Andorians in this season,
Yeah,
which
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about. I love Andorians.
their new makeup is pretty cool. I think.
Mhm.
I still think that Enterprise did the best Andorians.
I love that we saw Andorians, we saw Orions, we saw, if you have eagle eyes, a Cardassian.
Mm-hmm.
We saw,
I missed the Cardassian, but I did see one of Morn's species.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lurian.
Right, I saw that.
It's nice to see a Lurian doing something other than sitting at a bar drinking. They
And
do
there
have
was-
a life outside of a bar.
And the Orion was a pirate, I might point out. So
For all
There
we
was
know, that was Morn. We don't know how long he's supposed
that's
to
very
live.
true.
Who knows?
That is very true.
He's very successful with the ladies. might be son of Morn.
That's true. I wonder if it's the same actor. I should have looked to see. That would be funny if it was.
Same actor, same makeup from 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to guess, do we?
We do not.
Hang on.
So
I'll be the designated IMDb fetcher.
excellent. So Anthony, when you're talking about the timing of the temporal Cold War, did you look up dates?
Yes, I did earlier. Hang on. I will
Good
pull
for
it
you.
up again. Give me just a second. So, Daniels showed up in Shockwave in around 3052 and in future tense in Enterprise. And then Memory Alpha seems to think that the burn happens sometime between 3068 and 3088. So I guess this happens in 3088.
Well, we know the year that Michael ended up, and Book said that the burn was about 100 to 120 years prior to that date.
Got it. So
Yeah.
she showed up in 3188. So yeah, about 3068 and 3088. So within 35-ish years of Daniel's time.
Mhm.
I mean, given the timing,
Yeah.
and the mention of the temporal war,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be very surprised if it went in another direction. It might, but I'd be surprised.
Well, the Trek newbie, because that's pretty much what I am. What is the temporal war?
Anthony,
So,
take it away.
in Star Trek Enterprise, which was a prequel to the original series, they're off having their adventures, discovering things at the beginning of Earth's exploration into space, and then suddenly in one episode they come across this little capsule, and it turns out that there's a lot more underneath it, and it turns out it's from a time traveling person from the future. But even prior to that, and sorry, that's Daniels. I'm going all about. Prior to that, we find that the original main villains of the show, the Suliban, are acting on instructions from this mysterious character from the future. And it turns out there's some time travel aspect that's happening as part of a temporal Cold War, where various factions are going back in time to try and change the past to make small victories in this war.
Mhm.
In this show, they just mentioned the temporal war, so the implication is at some point it heated up and just became a full-blown war.
The only Enterprise episodes that Daniel has seen are the Mirror Universe ones, because as we were going into the second half of Discovery Season 1, where they go into the Mirror Universe, I showed him those two so that he could kind of like know a little bit. And there were a lot of references in the show to things that happened in Enterprise. So we watched those two. And
So
we'll watch
Dan-
more, Daniel. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm
So
good.
Daniel has seen pieces of what's arguably the best season of Enterprise anyway. So
Yeah,
That-
no argument
that-
about
Best season of Enterprise.
I mean, for some people, that's like being asked, would you rather be punched in the face or in the chest? I mean,
And Sabaro makes the best pizza in the mall.
it's edible.
I love
Just-
Enterprise. I'm just
I
going to
liked
say,
it too.
I love it.
Another kitty in the chat.
Yeah.
Lucy, hi.
Oh. Hi,
What's this
kitty.
kitty's name?
Lucy,
Lucy. She's a pretty girl.
short for
Is that-
Lucifer, because
Oh,
she's all
yeah.
black and she's a girl.
Oh,
Is
you
she
offended
named
her.
after? Is she named after Lucy in Disenchantment?
No,
Ah,
Is she named after a girl that's in the sky with diamonds?
no, she
Okay.
was named after Lucifer.
Okay.
She's named after my dad.
Your dad's name is Lucifer?
No.
We'll need to talk
Um,
about that.
That was a joke that landed very badly, so forget I said it.
He's saying he's the son of Satan.
Oh,
I just checked the IMDb, and Mark Allen Shepard, who played Morn, apparently is not the actor who played the person of Morn's species in this
That's-
episode.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, IMDb is crowdsourced, and the cast list for this episode is still very much incomplete. So
Yeah.
I mean, I could have sworn to him. He's a dead ringer. Couldn't tell him apart.
It is interesting that with the way that this show updates the look of pretty much every classic alien that they bring in, the Lurian looked exactly like the Lurian you see on DS9.
Lauren abides.
Lorna Bide. All right. Wendy says, I never watched Enterprise after season 2. Well, shame on you. I think I just didn't get the channel, and the person I was watching it with got in a fight with me. Well, there you go. A little history. A
What?
little history of Wendy Darling.
A
yeah,
fight
Wendy, I didn't get Enterprise either after season 2.
but you can watch it on CBS.
I mean, oh no,
Aren't
I
they
could
carrying-
watch it. I could watch it. I just didn't get it.
Didn't want to.
So
Okay.
I would suggest skipping season 3 and starting back up again with episode 2 of season 4. You'll be golden.
No, don't skip season 3. What are you talking about?
Alan's going to stab me next time he sees me.
Oh, I would never do that. All right. My buddy Joshy is piping in with
All right.
this is why the temporal Cold War won't have anything to do with the burn. It's just so much to have, just too much to have to go into for an audience who may. I agree with that an audience that may not have seen it. I think that was just a throwaway line for the diehards like us. I kind of agree with that. We don't bombard the internet with Enterprise said time travel is everywhere in the future. I think I kind of agree with that. I don't think it was ever going to be anything more than just a one-line reference, maybe just to give some kind of context to those of us who have followed all the previous Star Treks. But CBS All Access is basically playing on the building their own audience. And, just like Doctor Who did, I can't believe how many times we brought Doctor Who up in tonight's show.
Never be enough.
But the number of times that Doctor Who would make references to things in the past, but never dwell on them and never build on them in any significant way, at least at first.
Mm-hmm.
So excellent point, Joshy. I agree with that.
And it's funny. There's so many episodes of TOS that I feel like I've seen, but then I realize I never saw the whole thing. And I get that one. I think it's the one where they capture the fighter pilot, the 20th century fighter pilot, and the episode.
One with the guy with the cat, Gary Stebbin, was that episode?
This is a different one. This is a
No.
different one.
That
They
was a
go to
different
the
episode.
entry, and the episode opens with Kirk's log entry, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, we just went back in time for some historical research." Oh, you can do that. You can just do that because it's a little research trip, and they make no big deal of it. It's fantastic.
Talking about Lorians, Patrick Anderson says, "When you get a Morn right, don't mess with it."
Exactly.
I mean,
I'm
why
with you,
mess
Patrick.
Wendy could watch Enterprise, just like I could watch Voyager for the first time since it aired. No desire. Come on, man, harsh crowd tonight.
I feel you, Wendy.
I was going to say, Enterprise I disagree with, but Voyager, yeah, we're on the same page there.
Okay, so the Federation we learn in tonight's episode is essentially one dude sitting behind a desk with a flag and a suitcase. So, he
I thought that whole I was like teary-eyed, and I'm not just saying that to be facetious. I mean, the fact that he was carrying on like a third generation, I mean, you really did feel like that he was like a remnant of what the Federation was. I mean, because of his loyalty and his dedication to duty, even though, like you said, he really wasn't part of a Starfleet anymore because there was nobody to swear him in.
I did like that Burnham offered him a commission.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We need an Uhura. Would you like to be our Uhura? I can't make all these phone calls to Discovery by myself. I have to have somebody to do that for me.
So from whatever's left of Starfleet, Burnham is probably the ranking commander.
Well, we don't know about the other two ships, though, that we don't know anything about them. I mean, we do know that there are still two Federation ships out there because the guy was able to track them, so we don't know anything about them.
Mm-hmm.
But of anyone else out there who might have the rank of commander, she's had it for the longest.
Well, that's true. She's had it for 900
That's what I mean.
years.
I've been a commander since before your great-grandfather was in diapers.
Your great times 14 grandfather.
Exactly.
I did feel that was a very poignant moment when they unfurled the Federation flag at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I was just being over sentimental, but I just thought that was a very poignant moment.
No,
It was
I'm right
poignant.
there. Moved by the whole sequence at the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the
Really continuing what Burnham said, the Federation and Starfleet are, that it's not about the ship.
It's about the people.
It's about the vision that they have. Yeah.
Exactly.
It was very moving.
Daniel.
I love that.
Daniel, you've been trying to say something for a few minutes now.
Oh, no, I was just going to talk about the alarm clock, the bird.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
'Cause I'm like, he just waves it away, and if I do that, I go back to sleep. So, like, if I slam on the bird, does it like squawk or do something?
Well, eventually, it's like a when you always do a snooze button. Every time you do, the bird that appears is bigger. Eventually, a condor is going to rip your face off if you don't get out of bed.
I still think good.
It's future technology.
It's every 9 minutes a bigger bird appears.
Till eventually, Carol Spinney is standing above you in a big bird costume.
Right, that clock was obviously a gift that he got from the Audubon Society when he donated to them.
If you donate now, you'll receive this thank you gift.
Exactly.
But I love that opening scene. I thought it was or opening montage, I guess. I thought it was beautiful and very, very touching. And it reminded me more than anything else of the opening to season 2 of Lost, where Desmond, we saw Desmond's life down in the hatch, waking up every morning and
Yeah, that's right.
listening to his music and punching in the numbers. And I wouldn't be shocked to learn that it was sort of an allusion or a reference to that.
Speaking of the flag is unfurled. The Federation emblem that we all know and are familiar with has lots of stars in it. This one has 6. So obviously the Federation, or what's left of it, has shrunk down to a very, very small size. Who do you think the 6 stars represent?
Hmm.
We
Were there
have a
not
scene.
always
Trill.
6 stars?
What's that?
Were there not always
I think one of
6
them's
stars?
Trill.
I would imagine so, since we know we're seeing Trills this season.
For anyone who's
Wait, what have you got there? Is that the Starfleet emblem on the label?
Is that Romulan ale?
that's just the. You can see
I
how many
see.
stars.
No, we
No,
can't see.
it's the United Federation of Planets Special Reserve Zinfandel.
Ooh.
Well, I would have
But yes,
guessed that one
that-
of them would have been Vulcan, but then if we go by the Star Trek movies, I mean, I guess Vulcan still exists, even though the planet doesn't. The race still does. I mean, didn't they just resettle someplace else? What was left
No,
of them?
This isn't in the timeline, is it?
Yeah,
What?
Vulcan
This-
was destroyed in an alternate timeline. We're
Yeah.
we're still in the main timeline where Vulcan continues to exist.
Okay, so I would guess that Vulcan would probably be one of them.
Probably.
Hmm.
It'll be interesting to
Mhm.
see if there have been any new additions that are one of the 6 remaining races, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Lurians. You never know.
Yeah.
Someone's got to tend the bar.
Maybe
Hey, right.
Kronos.
Maybe.
That would be very interesting.
Maybe. Let's get a couple more comments. George says, I was teary-eyed with that too, though it's like a video game. Gonna go to all the space station and turn on the long distance sensors. And EAH, emergency alarm hologram. Wendy said the opening scenes reminded her of the 3rd segment of 2001, plus orchestral music as Kubrick loved.
Interesting.
Interesting. Oh, Josh has got another one. Hang on. So I love Discovery, but it has one major flaw, and it's still in evidence this season. It always has to go 100 miles an hour without stopping for any context. Yes. We should have taken our time for Michael to connect with the remnants of Starfleet. Give us some time to see how bad the galaxy is without the Federation around, to give us a reason to be interested in Michael's mission to bring it back. Absolutely agreed. I wonder if that's what we're going to be seeing in the next episode. So the one thing that we do know concretely from this episode is that without Starfleet around, or without the Federation around, there's nobody to enforce the Endangered Species Act.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. That is the sum total of the impact that the Federation has had on the galaxy.
It means
I'm kidding.
without the Federation, Republicans win.
Well, it's interesting. If you'll indulge me for a minute on that note, there have been a lot of complaints, not entirely unfounded, about how different modern Star Trek is.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek has always been and will continue to be made by the people and the times that it is made in.
Yep.
So, I really think we definitely got it with Picard. We get it to a certain degree with Lower Decks, but I think very much in Discovery, we're talking about a growing awareness and specific times in which the institutions that we revere have been compromised or even crumbled, that we have to keep reasserting the values that we think our society was founded on. So, I think it only makes sense that modern Star Trek would be very different from the way Roddenberry imagined it. Oh,
Right.
good heavens, 60 years ago now.
Mm.
However, if I could introduce a corollary to that,
Please.
Roddenberry's dream was always very utopian. He believed that humanity would solve all of our problems, and we would join hands and go out into the galaxy as friends, all as friends with each other.
Yes, go ahead.
and having the Federation collapsed seems to be a betrayal of that. But we have Burnham and we have Mr. Sahil embodying the hope and the optimism that was also at the core of Roddenberry's vision.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, am I amusing somebody?
No, they're laughing at me.
Oh, well, that's all right. And so I think Discovery is still very much represents Roddenberry's vision of the future by continuing the hope and the optimism, even amid the ruins of the Federation. And if I can draw a connection with another Roddenberry property, this is basically the same premise of his show Andromeda, which was a show that began with great promise, and it was basically the idea there was that the captain of a starship found himself 300 years in the future because reasons, and the Commonwealth, which was the government that he belonged to, had disappeared by that time, and he had the quixotic intention of bringing it all back together, and that show failed for many reasons, mainly because of Kevin Sorbo, but Discovery, I think, could hit that premise out of the park.
Agreed. I'm going to be very interested to see.
I agree with that, Vandy Bat.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I agree with that. It's really that message that even in times of darkness, there's always hope, which I think is something that's especially relevant today.
Like the yin and the yang symbol.
Exactly.
Even at its darkest, there's still that white dot that represents. I don't know what I'm talking about, but
sure you do.
But yeah,
I was tracking with you.
Sounds good so far.
Well, I'm tired, so I'll let one of the rest of you pick it up. Oh, hey, Chris is here. Hi, Chris.
Oh, that's an interesting comment. Oh, Alan, you're muted.
Damn it! There we are.
Yep.
Hey. So the Federation lasted another 800 or so years. That's pretty powerful, and there is a possibility that it will arise again. Absolutely. I'm really interested to see. We know that it's going to revolve around Burnham, but I'm really interested to see when Discovery finally shows up in this thing and becomes integrated into the bigger storyline, how the crew and the way the ship operates becomes the model of what the Federation is supposed to be and becomes the inspiration for, I know it's going to be Burnham, but I think that once that crew, that, you know, as much as Michael talks about the Federation, Saru is equally as passionate and fervent about the ideals of Starfleet as she is. And I think the way that that crew operates, I think that's going to be the thing that really galvanizes the future into rebuilding what they had lost.
It's almost like taking the Federation back to basics.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Wendy says, anyone have issues getting some of the dialogue? Always. When I rewatch, I'm doing it with subtitles. I didn't get the station attendant's name at all, for example. Yeah, sometimes, you know, when I was watching, I just did a rewatch of seasons 1 and 2, and I don't know, I didn't sense it tonight at all, but when I was rewatching the episodes, the main dialogue was muted underneath sound effects and music. It was like watching a Murray Gold episode of Doctor Who.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I think that's just modern TV.
Yeah.
I had the same trouble. I had to watch with the subtitles turned on.
Yeah, I had a hard time understanding.
But luckily, the way my computer frames the picture, the subtitles were mostly down in the black bar at the bottom of the screen, so they didn't really obscure the picture.
Wendy is curious to know what we all think of the new opening sequence. A couple of objects I didn't recognize. That's a good one.
Yeah, one of the objects was obviously Eve, the girl robot from Wall-E.
That's what Daniel said yesterday.
Yeah. And that might be an extension of the drone, the repair drones that we saw.
That's exactly what I thought. They look different, but it's likely to be a similar thing.
Yeah.
The red stuff floating at the beginning, were those dilithium crystals?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Or
they've
they were
been,
red matter.
Mm.
or they were what?
Red matter.
Maybe. Oh.
That's the thing about
Time travel,
right?
yeah.
Is that it? Okay. I want to bring up. I want to go back and talk about the dilithium thing. Book said something about needing dilithium, and he says unless you have a dilithium recrystallizer handy.
Right.
If you remember back to season 2, Poe, the Queen of Zahia, invented a way to recrystallize dilithium. And everyone was agog of this. Like this is the most amazing thing anyone had ever done in the history of the galaxy. So it's really interesting that they introduced that last season, and now it's coming into, or I don't know if it's just a mention of it, or if that's going to play a role in turning the burn around.
It would
Undoing the
definitely play a
burn.
role.
Hmm?
Yeah, they don't. You don't say something like that just as a stray remark.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Poe, I believe, did not go into the future with Enterprise and with Discovery and Burnham. So sadly, no one who went into the future knows how to do this thing that she knows how to do.
Right.
So Book is out of luck, I'm guessing.
So
Well,
do we,
Poe probably left notes.
I'm guessing at some point, I mean, she didn't want anyone else to know how she did it because she didn't want the ability or the knowledge to be misused. So I'm guessing either at some point she changed her mind about that, or the information got released somehow. And it's become a thing that they do in the future.
Or, again, as we've said many times during this show, we don't know how long Poe lives.
Well, true.
So maybe she's still there.
That's true.
Maybe she's still out there 930 years from now.
Could be.
I mean, her sister is a planet, so who the fuck knows?
Right. Oh, yeah. George, once again, points out a good thing. The device is still on Discovery. Reno has it.
oh,
That's right.
There
There you go. All the pieces fall together.
so I can stop
There we
watching.
are. Asked and answered.
Chris says, and not Rhett, Tilly, and Paul have some idea. I don't know what
Jet.
that's in reference.
Jet.
Yeah. Exactly. Who I can't wait to see. Okay. As this episode was starting, I said, I'll bet you this is going to be a solo Burnham episode and Discovery's not going to be in it at all.
Mhm.
Right.
I wonder how long it's going to be before we do see Discovery.
I hope not long.
I hope so too.
Probably
Excellent.
not. We will see Discovery again before Discovery and Burnham are reunited.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
I agree.
100%.
We will be getting parallel stories, one with Burnham and one with Discovery. Much like on Malcolm in the Middle, we had one storyline with the family and the other storyline with the kid in military school.
Yeah.
It'll be exactly like that on Discovery until Burnham and
Yeah.
Discovery are reunited.
I told Daniel earlier tonight that I demand that since we've had a solo Burnham episode, I want one episode of all Discovery and no Burnham. It will
You're
not
not going
happen.
to get that.
I
That
know.
will not happen.
I know I'm going to be disappointed. But
A
all right, so
Burnham episode, if you will.
yes, exactly. Let's talk about the trailer for the rest of the season. Did everybody watch that?
Well,
Yep.
obviously, there's been some time that's passed based on Burnham's hair.
Exactly. That's what Daniel was saying. This next episode, how much time spans this next episode where she is suddenly got this hair down to her, down her back.
She could have found a salon that gave her extensions. You don't know.
Well, that's true.
The hair growth technology of the future is
And who did I say her hairdresser is?
Moxie and Magnus.
Yeah.
You gotta get Moxie to film a special segment about how this girl came in and I took great care of her. I tell you.
As we've said many times in this episode, we don't know how long Moxie lives.
Moxie lives forever, or at least the
In our
concept that
hearts.
Moxie does.
In our hearts, yes, she does. So let's talk about the trailer. Now,
Yeah.
the trailer, we finally get some Giorgio. So,
Mhm.
Daniel, do you want to talk about Giorgio for a second?
It's just her being badass. I mean, that's really it. And she's good comic relief with her passive aggressive remarks, and I love Michelle Yeoh, and I think she's perfect in this.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I was so glad to see more scenes with the crew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what role they're going to be playing in the future, and more of this future. I really am looking forward to seeing who populates it and what their relationships with each other are, what the governments, how strained the relationships are, and things like that. What are some things that you're wanting to see from this season?
So I did notice how in some of those scenes in the trailer, the Discovery crew were wearing new Starfleet badges. So they obviously connect with future Starfleet. So I want to see how that dynamic works with the crew of the Discovery.
Uh-oh.
And he froze.
With their 22nd.
Some sudden
Oh,
interference.
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
really? We can't even do a bad lip reading because there's no lips to read.
I know there's no movement.
Well, someone else carry on. What would you like to see? What are you hoping to see this season?
Well, it's not so much what I want to see. What I've been reading is that all of the reviewers, CBS released the first 4 episodes of season 3 to the reviewers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most of them have been pretty mum on what's happening in 2, 3, and 4. But
As they should be.
all of them said that it appeared that the Discovery was going back to a rather formulaic episodic creation, which is they land on a planet every week. There's like an A story about what's going on with the planet and the inhabitants, and then there's a B story that's some interaction with the crew, between the crew.
Okay.
And I'm not so sure I like that. It'll be interesting to see if what a lot of the reviewers have said is true about episodes 2, 3, and 4.
Well, I mean, if you go back to DS9, they were sort of an early serialized show that did it in an episodic way. So it was sort of a hybrid. I wonder if that's what they're going for in this one, because it's going to be very serialized.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're doing it in a way that each episode feels distinct, maybe that's what they're going for.
I mean,
But
it
I
is
really
episodic
I
television.
like it when they have. I mean, it's fine if they have like a main story every episode that gets resolved at the end of the 53 minutes or wherever it is. But I like having a longer, bigger story arc that also weaves through all of the episodes, so that we can find out things like how they connect with the other 2 starships that are out there, how they connect with the remnants. I want to find all of that out. I want a deeper story.
Yep. Daniel, what are you hoping to see other than more Michelle Yeoh?
Yeah, obviously. I had a really good answer for that, and listening to everyone else's stuff, I kind of forgot it. So come back to me.
All right, we'll come back to you. Mr. Gray.
I'm the type that is really just along for the ride, so it's not generally so much about what that I hope to see anything in particular. But if pressed, I would say a Lower Decks reference.
Ooh, I would love that.
Yeah, because Lower Decks, I think, is crammed in a reference to every other series, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
We're failing that. I always want to see the Spock helmet.
That is the greatest gift that Lower Decks gave us.
Burnham, you have to put this on so we can find you. Just turn on the light and we'll know right where you are.
Anthony, are you back with us? No, he's not.
Oh boy.
Well, he's barely moving.
Hmm.
Do you think
Someone's
he can
having
hear us?
signal issues.
Raise your hand if you can hear us.
I am. Can you guys hear me now?
Oh,
Hear you, yes.
You're not moving.
He's out of phase.
Ooh.
Oh no, it's a temporal rift right
Man.
there.
If this works like this now in the early 21st century, what's it going to be like when we have to do this holographically?
That's funny. I do want to see at some point where they do holographic communications and they have to buffer. That would just be amazing.
Just in the center of your chest, the little whirling thing.
Okay, he raised his hand, so he can hear us.
Yeah, but that's not going to help us.
I'm seeing a red angel now. Nothing.
Another thing that I just thought of in one of those scenes, maybe one of the ones where we saw the Cardassian. It was in the Mercantile, and there was a lot of background characters going on. There was, I don't know who they are or what they are. I'll bet George Michael Harms knows. But on the Enterprise or on the Discovery bridge, there are two aliens with big heads that has never had a line of dialogue. They're just kind of hanging around in the background. And there was one of those in one of the Mercantile scenes, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, it's just a reuse of a mask that they already have. But I wonder if that's something that we're going to at least find out what they're called.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. So, Michael Burnham on drugs.
Oh, I want some of that shit.
The best part.
I've broken the barrier. You'll have to. Yeah.
What was the line? I have a friend with red hair. Don't give her this stuff.
Yes. The best line, that was, I think, the best line of the episode. Second best line was about the cargo. It's temperature controlled and it's very, very precious, so it must be ice cream. Hey, Vandy Beth. Oh, there she is. I was going to say, I think she froze too.
Nope, I'm here.
All right, awesome. So, final thoughts about this week's episode.
Loved it. Can't wait for more.
Yeah, what RL said. I'm with him 100%.
Did you come up with your answer to the previous question, Daniel?
No, Anthony just sent a chat asking to be let back in.
There he is.
There he is.
I'm back.
Yay! Excellent.
This is the last time I do this from my office. I'm going to do this from downstairs in the future.
Okay.
Well, you're here just in time to say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Goodbye. Okay, seriously. Last thoughts about tonight's episode. Anthony, we'll start with you since you missed the last 10 minutes of the show.
I was going to say, I really, really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more of this season. And what I was trying to say before I was so cruelly cut off is I'm really excited to see the dynamic between the historical crew of the Discovery from 1,000 years in the past and the Federation as it stands in the 32nd century. I'm pretty excited for that.
Absolutely.
I thought it was a really strong intro to the season. I'm really excited to see where it goes, and it definitely left me wanting more. So, job well done.
Agreed. All right, so let's talk about what we have going on in our lives outside of Star Trek. Daniel, you can be found
Oh, yes.
at Companion's Corner. Tell us about that.
Well, I have a sewing machine, and at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, I'm going to make masks. The first thing I made suck, but they've gotten a lot better.
Yes, I have.
So I've started pretty much hoarding fabric, So instead of Star Wars toys or anything else back there, I now buy fabric and make masks. So if you'd like any, please let me know or visit the site. But if I know you guys, I can give you a discount.
Lisbeth, tell us a little bit about Our Town DeKalb.
We're working on the November issue. We recently expanded to 20 pages from 16. Yay!
Ooh.
And we added a foodie column. So
Ooh,
in
nice.
November, we will have our food columnist on board, Doug Renix, who's going to be writing a monthly column all about food.
Doug the driver.
It is. Do you know Doug? That's right. You live in Texas. You know Doug the driver. He's going to be our foodie author.
Oh, excellent. I look forward to seeing the next issue. I was reading this the October one earlier this week.
Do you get it at your house?
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I am a fan.
I pimp it when I can.
Very nice. Anthony,
All right.
tell us all about this.
You can find me on the Watchers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, where myself and 3 others are watching our way through the entirety of Doctor Who. We have just put out our season 4 retrospective, and that is season 4 starring William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, not season 4 starring David Tennant. And additionally, which isn't listed down here, but you can also find me on Sweet Radu's Musically Inclined, which is a heavy metal podcast.
Yeah. Nice.
So,
Vandy Beth, tell us what you have going on.
Nothing.
That's
Is
not true.
not true. You always have stuff going on.
0.
I'm sorry, you have that countdown on your Facebook page about music that I look at every day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that's friends only.
Yeah.
and you're also
and
on
you're
your
working
receiving-
a poll.
See that.
Aren't you a poll worker for this election?
Oh yes, I'm a poll worker for this election.
That's very important.
and
That's
aren't you
November
recently
3rd.
getting awards and stuff for filmmaking?
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, everybody go vote. Everybody
There you
go vote. Go vote for Joe Biden.
Mr. Gray, what you got going on that people should know about?
First of all, a mea culpa for the record. Lisbeth was correct. It was a Simon Earth where they just go back in time on a lark.
And he had a cat. He got a black
Yeah,
cat
you're
named
right.
Isis.
That was the one. I got it mixed up. I'm a bad Trekkie, and I get 10 minutes in the agony booth for that. Mostly I'm just working on this PhD and here in Southwest Atlanta, dodging the Rona with Candace. But I am working on a segment for the Future Cities podcast talking about New Orleans.
Oh, that's awesome.
The subject, those of you who know me, I won't shut the hell up about it, but it's super interesting.
And I have a thing too, but I don't have it with me. Hang on a second.
I bet it's a book.
Not a puppy.
Oh, that's right. Your kid's book.
Okay, I have a thing now.
Oh, that's
My
right.
first picture book.
Yeah.
It's out. Yes. Look at that. Look at that.
Fantastic.
It is.
Is it going to be in your library, the one that you work at?
It will be.
Yay!
And I plan to do we're doing virtual programming. So we do like a live story time every day. And I plan to do this in story time as soon as we get a copy on the shelf.
Yay!
Very cool.
Congratulations.
Yes. So thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope everyone has a great night. Thanks to all our viewers. Thanks for the amazing questions and comments. And we will see you next Thursday at the same time, 9:00 Eastern time for episode 2, which is, I forgot the title. What was tonight's title? You are that hope.
Yeah.
Or something like that. That hope is
Part
you.
1.
That's it. So next week is That Hope Is You, part 2.
The hope
right.
is yeah.
That hope is you, Michael Burnham, because of course it is. Anyway, so have a great night, everybody. Take care. Be good to each other. Go vote and have a phenomenal week. And we'll see you next week for episode 2.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.